just a little introduction. My name is Rachel Fambro. I'm the virtual learning coordinator, and I've been working alongside with Monica to create a system of supports for our substitutes. Right now, for our substitutes, we do a monthly training for those substitutes who sub a lot or who have just gotten onboarded in the last month. We also hold substitute office hours every Monday. We Am I missing anything? We've also created a guide for them. And gosh, I feel like it takes so much of our time, but I can't think of anything else. So it's those monthly trainings and our weekly office hours. And so now we're having today just to kind of get everyone going. And so the person who actually holds those 8-hour trainings teaching our subs, who all are coming with different devices, so bravo to her, and holds those office hours and they really enjoy and like her, is Monica. So Monica, would you go ahead and introduce everyone to yourself? I don't know how to pronounce that.
Hi, I'm Monica Daniel. I'm new to BCSD and I am working with Ray as an ed tech specialist to help support the district in different things this year. And like Ray said, I do meet with the subs, all our new subs or subs that have been subbing. I am giving them a full 8-hour training, as well as follow-up on Mondays. And from there, we're getting a lot of feedback of things that are working and maybe some things that we just want to make sure we all are aware of. And I'm definitely excited to be a part of the team.
Yes, me too. I know that after the PD, the subs say like, I really feel like I'm a part of Team BCSD, and Monica's a big part of that. So thank you so much. Just norms are the usual. Mute, use the chat because there's a lot of us. We are pretty responsive to the chat. We've got two. Monica's will support in the chat. I've also got two screens up so I can see the chat and everyone on this side, and I see our slide deck on this side. As far as our BCSD core priorities today, we're going to focus on a culture of collective efficacy. We're building our collective capacity to support our subs and our teachers during this time of virtual learning. And that also aligns with our vision and our mission, which is the highest level of excellence in equity, or to be the model of educational excellence, equity, and innovation, which is a pretty cool vision. I mean, I think we all want to be excellent, teach equitably, and be innovative. And that aligns with our mission, which is to build that capacity of our students to meet the highest level of academic excellence, become collaborative, creative, and critical thinkers, which are all of the skills that are identified for the Partnership for 21st Century Learning. Today, we will learn what steps we need to take to set up our virtual learning substitutes for success, and we'll know we're successful when we can give our virtual learning substitutes access to teachers' Zoom meetings and their Google Classroom. So in the chat, if you will put, what are some successes you've had with virtual learning substitutes? In the chat, what are some wins? They're showing up. Oh, they're creating a shared sub drive. Positive attitude and willing to learn. Today will help with those challenges and build upon those successes. And if you see anybody in the chat with a good idea, feel free to shoot them an email or send them a phone call asking, hey, you said you had this cool spreadsheet. Would you share that with me? Or, hey, how did you set up that shared drive? I'll go ahead and get us started. Thank you for sharing your current reality so that we can build upon that. Today, we're going to focus on three aspects. Aeries access for subs, what that means. Teachers giving access to you all, and then you all giving access to the subs. So access to what? So the first thing is Aeries access. So what we ended up having to do is we asked the IT department to come up with 10 standard sub accounts. So every school site has 10 sub accounts, and each of those sub accounts have a Zoom account. So we had to set up those sub accounts so that we could set them up in Zoom. What does this mean? This means that one of those 10 accounts will be assigned to the sub when the sub is put into Aeries. So when you put the sub into Aeries, the sub is assigned one of those 10 accounts and a random password. That account will allow them to access anything Google and Zoom, and that's it. So they cannot access the curriculum. They cannot access things like Smarty Ants or any supplemental resources, but they can in Google and they can in Zoom. So what does that look like? Well, when Monica and I were setting this up, neither of us knew what the clerk's or the secretary's reality was or is. So we worked with the secretaries. We worked with the clerk at Franklin Fletcher, and she set this up for us. So I just want to share that with you in case this is not work that you do, so that we all just kind of have a shared understanding. She created this slide deck for me real fast just so I could see what it looks like when they set the subs up. So they go into Smart Find Express, they find out who's going to be absent, and then they go in and they select pages and substitutes. Then they add a sub. They say which teacher they're going to sub for. They put in the beginning date and the end date. They print out a report to give to their sub, and this is what that report looks like. So the report has the username of the sub, which is one of those 10, and it also has a randomly generated password. That password will only work for this account as long as this job is scheduled for. So again, once the sub is entered, one of those 10 accounts is assigned to the sub, and a randomly generated password is created, and it is only good for the duration of the sub's job. So that's how we give access in Aeries. I just want to point out two things. The password I already pointed out. The second thing is name. If that randomly assigned one of those 10 usernames was used by a different sub yesterday, and today it's used by me, I'm a new sub, it might still have the old sub's name. Doesn't matter. As long as they've got that username and that randomly generated password, they can still get into Google and Zoom. So it's your turn. I want to give you 3 minutes. It's 9:41. We'll come back together at 9:44. Go ahead, click on this link, file, make a copy if you want to have access to it later, and browse through those steps to give your subs access. So our next step is teachers giving access to support staff. So the only way that we can give access to our subs is if first our teachers give access to us. So what does that look like? Well, the first thing is you need to be a co-teacher on your teacher's Google Classroom. In Google Classroom, co-teachers can do anything a teacher can do. So if a teacher can add co-teachers, co-teachers can add co-teachers. The only thing a co-teacher cannot do is delete the Google Classroom. So we have to be added as co-teachers so we can add the sub as the co-teacher. So how do teachers add us as a co-teacher? They probably all know, but just in case they don't and you have to communicate that to them, all they have to do is go into their Google Classroom, select people, go to teachers and add the person with the plus sign and type in your name. Then once they do, all you'll have to do is go to classroom.google.com and select accept. So I just want to show you what that looks like. If I'm a teacher, and you'll need to do this as the support staff as well to add the sub, but first let's talk about what the teachers need to do. Once I am in my Google Classroom, I need to go to my my specific Google Classroom that I'm wanting to share. Go over to people, where it says teachers, choose the person with the plus sign, and now I can type in a co-teacher and select invite. So just click on my Google Classroom, go to people, select the person with the plus sign next to teachers, and they're going to type in your name. And now you'll be asked to be a co-teacher. So how do you accept that? How do you accept if somebody's invited you? How do you even know? Well, all you have to do is go to classroom.google.com And when they invite you, you'll see the invitation, which again, I think many of you do know this. And all you'll have to do is select join or accept, just like this screenshot shows. And so that gives you now you're the co-teacher, you're the co-teacher, and you can invite whomever. So just a show of hands, hands next to your ears. How many of you already are co-teachers on all of your teachers' Google Classrooms? Okay, very cool. Awesome. So now this step is the next step that might be more unfamiliar. So the teachers also have to give us scheduling permission. Scheduling permission on Zoom is different than being a co-host or an alternative host. Why? Well, an alternative host can start a meeting, but an alternative host cannot add other hosts. And so we have to have scheduling permissions. The teachers have to give all of us scheduling permission. So how do the teachers do that? Well, they'll log in to zoom.us. Once they do, they'll go down to settings. And in settings, they'll scroll all the way to the bottom and it's going to say scheduling permissions. They're going to need to select you to have scheduling permission and then select save. So let me show you what that looks like. I'm going to go to zoom.us, select set at the right or the left-hand side, scroll all the way to the bottom, and here is something called scheduling privilege. Now, if I want, Monica's my coach, and I want her to be able to look at all my meetings, schedule meetings for me, add alternate hosts to my meetings, then I'm going to say I need to assign scheduling privileges to. So I'll select the plus sign next to assign scheduling privileges to. I'll type in Monica's email and assign. Oh, I know. So now she can actually assign meetings for me and see all of my meetings. So I just want to show you how to do that one more time. Once I log into Zoom, usually we're directed to our meetings. Your teachers will need to go down to settings, scroll down to the bottom where it says assign scheduling privileges to. Select the plus sign and type in your name. So we're actually going to take a second and try that. I'm going to use this as an opportunity before I release you is to just plug this virtual learning substitute office guide. If you haven't received them, how many of you have received a box of these? Anybody? Okay. So Matt printed these out and sent them to you guys. So these directions are also in this sub guide. In case you remember that you need to do it, but you forget the exact steps. Well, they're in here. Teachers give front office scheduling permission in Zoom. So it is 9:51. I want you guys to go ahead and find out where your scheduling permissions are so you know how to show your teachers how to do it. So it is 9:51. Let's go ahead and practice till 9:54. 9:54. If you need more time after 9:54, just let me know in the chat. Into how to give us to give the subs access, whomever is doing this work in the morning. So the first thing we'll need to do is add them as a co-teacher. All right. Now, the next thing we need to do after we add them as a co-teacher, so I had everybody raise their hands earlier, it looks like they know how to do that. And if you don't, you have the steps here. And you can follow those same steps because a co-teacher can do anything a teacher can do on a Google Classroom except delete the Google Classroom. The next thing that you need to do is you need to find the teacher's Zoom meeting and add the sub username as an alternative host. Why is that? Well, the sub will come in, the sub will log into Google Classroom, log into Zoom using that username and password. Again, if it's not their actual name showing up, that's fine. They just need access. Once they do, how many of your teachers have their Zoom link in the Google Classroom? Most of us, right? Well, since that sub was designated as an alternative host, when they click on the meeting, they can start it. So alternative hosts can start meetings and they'll have the link because it's in Google Classroom. But we have to make them an alternative host. So how do we do that? Well, we go into Zoom, we're directed to our meetings, and then at the right-hand side, we actually can select any of the people we have scheduling privilege for. Once we select that person, we'll go to the meeting, click on it, edit, and add that sub username as an alternative host. So let me show you what that looks like. I'm going to go to Zoom. Usually we're defaulted to meetings, and if you're not, you just need to select that at the left-hand side. Now, how do I find the teachers' meetings? These are my meetings. How do I find the teachers' meetings? Well, if they've given me scheduling permissions, I go to this right-hand side and I choose the teacher. So Monica and Brandon have given me scheduling permission. So if Monica is out today, I'm going to click on her name and I can see all of her meetings. Once I click on her names, I'm going to go to her meeting for today. Scroll down to edit. Scroll down and I'm going to put that sub name as an alternative host. So 01 sub 262 at bcsd.com and save. Remember that sub will access the Zoom link in the Google Classroom, and since they're an alternative host, they can access it. So one more time, I want to show you how to do that. I've added the sub as a co-host, as a co-teacher in Google Classroom. Boom, done. I'm going to now go to Zoom, select meetings, go to the right-hand side and find the name of the sub or the name of the absent teacher. Find their what's this thing called? Their meeting. Edit the meeting. And at the bottom, add the sub username as an alternative host. I want to show you just one more time. So I go to Zoom, meetings, choose the absent teacher. Find the meeting that they would have had today and click on it or go to edit. Scroll to the bottom where it says alternative host and type in the name of the sub and save. All right, so again, those steps are in our virtual learning substitute office guide, but it is 10:01. I'm going to give us till 10:04. Well, I don't think it might not take that long. Go ahead and try till 10:03. We'll go 10:03 and go to your Zoom and see if you've got scheduling permissions for anyone. And if you do, see if you can edit their meeting. So we'll come back at 10:03. All right, so we're going to go ahead and pause there. And now,
Ray, if I could have just a moment, I kind of wanted to jump in and just give some clarification as to just alternate host versus setting them up as giving you scheduling preferences, just because I've had some feedback from subs and I wanted to share that with everyone. And what I'm hearing is we need to make sure that we're able to give subs actual alternate hosts within Zoom versus maybe sometimes there's been incidences where we're opening up the Zoom and making the teacher a host. And that has worked, but there's been times where once maybe that sub accidentally closes the Zoom, or they, go to lunch and don't think to leave it open, well, then they can initiate the Zoom again. So yesterday we had a sub try to initiate it after lunch, and they got stuck like, you're in the waiting room, because they were added as a host in a Zoom, the teacher Zoom session, but they weren't actually given alternative host options. So if and when they drop or anything happens, if they're not actually the alternate host in Zoom, they will actually not be able to get back in, and they'll have to run around and have someone figure out how to open that teacher Zoom again. So making sure that the teachers have given all the support to your site, whether it's your coach or the front desk or anyone that's actually helping support the subs, making sure that you actually have that alternate scheduling option so that they are added as a alternate host versus a host or co-host for the day. Because if and when it drops, they're going to struggle to get back in.
That's such a great point, and that's something that Monica knows because during those office hours, the subs do come and share with her those things. So I know that for me, I'm not intimately chatting with subs, so I might miss something like that. And so I'm really grateful that there's that time to collect that feedback from them, so we can make those little edits that might make all of our systems of support run a little bit more smoothly during such a chaotic time. Um, so that leads us to our third step. We were able to visit all of those steps today. So, did we learn the steps we need to take to set up our virtual learning substitutes for success? Were we able to learn that? See? All right. Give me a thumbs up if you were. Yes. All right. Very cool. Got a yes in the chat. All right. Thank you. And then, did we give our virtual learning substitutes access to teacher Zoom meeting and Google Classroom? We may not have in this particular setting, just depending on how things are set up at our school site. We may need to go back and ensure a few things are changed, but hopefully the steps to go ahead and do that are a little bit more explicit as we move forward. By the way, thank you to just like Monica received feedback from the subs, I had a coach call me and say, what do we do with all these subs? I'm trying to run around, make everybody a co-host. This is tough. So I thought, you're right. We send out one email with directions at the beginning of the year. We didn't do any follow-up. My bad. So we were able to have this professional learning opportunity. So shout out to that coach who gave that feedback. So our takeaways in the chat, would you put what was the most valuable takeaway in today's learning? That being said, here are some of the resources that are available. The first one is the office guide that's in print and is available here. The second resource is the virtual learning sub guide that you guys have access to. I believe that came with the office guide. And the subs have access to. Ilse is going to start printing these out when she onboards subs as well and make sure that they have it. Monica is also sharing this in the monthly trainings because some of the subs didn't realize we had it either.
And
So
Ray, the
this,
virtual learning sub guide for the actual subs, this blue one that you have open, is also posted in their website where they accept the jobs. So as they accept jobs, they are given this link immediately, as well as also when they're meeting with Ilse and with me again. So they're seeing it multiple times. So we're hoping that helps streamline the process as well.
absolutely. And those same steps for how to log into your device, how to get onto Google Classroom, how to accept that you're a co-teacher and find your Zoom link. And it's kind of color coded to match the color of the little app. How to act as an alternative host in the teacher's meetings, and then kind of how to admit or to mute or to unmute. So just a little bit of a guidance for the sub. And then we also put in this student engagement page just for a couple of strategies: thumbs up, thumbs down, shared Google Doc, Also how to take attendance. Our subs did say that when they get the attendance printed out, it's a little easier for them to track who comes in and out. So if you might, if that's something you're able to do for them, they did say that was very helpful. And so that is the sub guide. You can hand that to them when they log in and just ask that they return it, or maybe not. So that is available to them. At Chavez, they created a little bit more simplified version, and I included that just in case that's more helpful. So this is, instead of taking all that navigating all that fine print, they just put simplified step-by-step instructions. So that's on there as well, if you want to use that. The next resource is the virtual learning sub office hours. This link is wrong. It's go.bcsd.com FRJ. Like Monica said, this is posted in their Smart Find Express. And so they can have access to it there. I think that they sent a couple copies of these as well. If you can just let them know it's not slashes, it's go.bcsd.com /. And so you can direct them there if they need help with technology or any help. Monica's open on Mondays for them. Also, I included the slide deck in here that Monica has been using with the substitutes, just so you know the information that they receive during those monthly trainings. Again, it's anybody who's been onboarded or that Ilse calls in. They get a day, and she just focuses on these are the topics: Google Drive, Google Classroom, Zoom, and then humanizing virtual learning. And surprisingly, and like a pleasant surprise, they love the humanizing virtual learning portion. So Monica shares with them how to connect with kids, what they need, how to build relationships. And she said, these subs are so happy to be working with our kids, and they brag about them and say how wonderful they are. And so that is the presentation they get. And then finally, we'll have this same session duplicated in November if you'd like to hear it again, or you want to send somebody else who wasn't able to make it today. And then last thing I want to show is just on go.bcsd.com /DFP. At the left-hand side, we've added a tab that says virtual learning substitutes here. If you select that, all of those resources we just shared with you are on this page, and we'll add the video from today so that if you like to see those steps acted out, then you can find them here. So all those same resources are here. And so with that being said, who needs this many this many slide decks open? The answer is nobody. Nobody needs this many. And so, with that being said, please call either of us if you need any support. Email us, tweet us, whatever you need. And before we leave, if you would be so kind as to fill out your evaluation, just let us know if today was helpful, how it worked for you. We don't have any tests that tell us what our participants need or what was helpful. We just have this little eval, and it kind of helps us direct any type of future professional learning. So if you will, fill out that eval. And BBD, that's it, folks. If you fill out that eval, we are done. We achieved our 3 goals. And if you have any questions, Monica and I are here to help. So any questions? Thank you. All right, I'm going to play some music on the way out. We got you out in an hour. That was our goal. And just let us know if you need anything else or you hear any other feedback that would be helpful for our systems of support, because we're learning. We just created this 2 months ago, and we are happy to edit as needed, given feedback.
Yes, any feedback is great feedback. Hearing things from the subs that is working on their end for them, things that they think maybe they didn't know about. Anything that you find that isn't working best for you either is very helpful for us to make adjustments and move forward. So thank you for coming today, and hopefully if you have any questions, we're both here.
Definitely. So we'll stay on for a while you finish up, just in case you think of a question.